OG Lee in the house. Once again, once again. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I got a pop quiz for you today. All right? Now, I want you to put on your thinking caps. Got 5 questions for you. Are we at war? If so, who are we at war with? How long have we been at war? What is the name of the opposing force that we are at war with? And lastly, why, if we are at war, why are we at war? Okay, so how many of them did you get correct? Did you even realize that we were still at war? Did you realize that we've been at war since 2001, since Baby Bush was the president? So we went through Baby Bush, we went through President Obama, now we're with President Trump, and this is the longest war in American history. And I bet you many of us didn't even know the core reason why we're over there. But what got me on this is I was reading the news last night, and I saw these 2 young men who had got killed the other day. And they got killed in Afghanistan. And I thought, oh, wow. And I really gave them a moment of silence, because these 2 young men died over there protecting my liberties, and I forgot about it. And there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with being in a country having a war and most of your citizens have no idea about it. If you have people who've made a pact not to have war, for instance, you don't see us going to war with Germany or France or Ireland or something, right? So that means that war is unnecessary. Do you not think we have disagreements with them? If that's the case, then we can negotiate. That must mean that, right? Otherwise, they would be at war. War is unnecessary. I say this because here are 2 young men who gave their lives for our liberties, as they say, and no one even realizes it. And we have had in our last 3 presidents men who have no military service. Now, Baby Bush, he had some National Guard military service, but somehow he did not go into Vietnam when it was his turn. He did the National Guard thing. Then came President Obama. He had nothing to do with any military or anything like that, right? Here comes President Trump. Now, President Trump, he is in essence what Americans defined as a draft dodger.
It's something I've always missed. And, I built and helped build the Vietnam Memorial in downtown Manhattan. To me, that was a very important thing to do. But I've regretted not serving in many ways.
You have sacrificed nothing and no one.
I think I made a lot of sacrifices. I worked very, very hard. I've created thousands and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs.
I was fortunate to really not have to go. This was during the Vietnam period, and we were in a very, very highly contested and unpopular war.
June 1964, Trump registered for the draft after he graduated from the New York Military Academy. He received 4 education deferments while he was at Fordham and Wharton. Then, September 1968, Trump, starting his real estate career, got a medical deferment because of a bone spur in his foot.
Had deferments because of college, like a lot of people did. Numerous deferments because of college, and I had a foot thing, and I had deferment for that.
Despite the fact Trump had been active in various sports, including basketball and baseball. Trump often explains it was his high draft number, 356, which spared him from going to Vietnam.
He used every kind of way that he could, academically and physically, to dodge the draft.
That was an amazing period of time in my life. I was sitting at college watching. I was going to the Wharton School of Finance, and I was watching as they did the draft numbers, and I got a very, very high number, and those numbers never got up to.
But as it turns out, the draft lottery was never a factor when Trump was in college. According to Selective Service records obtained by CNN, Trump had been out of school for 18 months before the lottery even began.
When you think about literally the money that's being spent on those type of occupations, oh my goodness, it is astronomical. And then when you think of how many things that could have been done domestically,
we're going to take care of the vets, believe me.
This is like a game.
We're going to take care of their medical. We're going to take care of their vets.
Here are these 2 young men here, and now one of them, the white young man, he just came into the military basically. Went through basic training, went through his advanced individualized training, and then also he went to the paratrooper because he was at Fort Bragg stationed with the airborne unit. And so he went, I'm sure, through that additional training. But anyway, this was his first duty station. And it's unfortunate, but more unfortunate when we don't know why we're there. When we don't know why we're there, that is the biggest travesty. Baby boomers. And they don't even know anything about this war. They don't know why we're there or nothing. And for their entire lives, let's say they're 18 years old. For their entire lives, they don't realize that we've been at war. Fortunately, we haven't lost a lot of lives. 2 lives are lost. It gets lost, man. People are playing Fortnite, right? They're thinking about like the NFL draft. Right now, it's the NFL preseason. A lot of people are thinking about that. People's lives are tied up in all kinds of things. Something like a war takes a back seat. The last real war that the country really paid attention to, where you really just got a mood over the entire country, was Vietnam. People were paying attention to that. The country was actually drafting people, meaning you got to involuntarily go. People were paying attention to that, man. And people that were into music were making conscious music like Marvin Gaye. This is when the greatest music, what's going on. I don't know, man. This world is getting complicated and complicated and more and more complicated. And greed a lot of times, man, is at the base of it all. And that's the motivation. And but that happened because we're in a capitalist society. And capitalism does not say to take into account people in terms of how they fare. Capitalism says make as much money as you can. There are people who hold that in check. Otherwise the AIDS pill would have been $1,000 a pill, right? So people, try to hold that in check. But raw capitalism is cutthroat. And so the sooner people realize that, the better. And the sooner, in my opinion, that people realize that, the better off they are in maybe advising their kids, just like Trump's parents did. Don't go into the military, so even when they drafted him, you see they resisted, right? So you have to think about voluntarily sending, your kids and what have you, because when you think about your kid going in the military, you can't think about it a lot of times. Oh, they're going in, they're going to have a career and this is their start in life. But there are too many people that are warmongers, right? And you got to think about, wait, what the hell is my son doing in Afghanistan? Whoa, I got to think here. What is my son doing in Afghanistan? And it's beautiful when they do those tours and they come back and can tell you all these beautiful stories. But if your son catches a bullet, right? Or if your son, and another thing is the number of suicides. So if your son gets something up here and comes back and is killing, they're talking about suicides being 20 a day.
When you talk about the mental health problems, when people come back from war and combat and they see things that maybe a lot of the folks in this room have seen many times over, and you're strong and you can handle it, but a lot of people can't handle it. And they see horror stories, they see events that you couldn't see in a movie, nobody would believe it. You know, we need a mental health help and medical, and it's one of the things that I think is least addressed, and it's one of the things that I hear, like your question, it's one of the things that I hear the most about when I go around and talk to the veterans. So we're going to have a very, very robust level of performance having to do with mental health. We are losing so many great people that can be taken care of if they have proper care.
If your child goes over there and everybody thinks he comes back normal, and then in 5 years he ends up killing someone or something like that, or killing himself, I don't see what the advantage is.
A lot of people can't handle it, and they see horror stories, they see events that you couldn't see in a movie, nobody would believe it.
Going over somewhere, killing people, when half the people in the country don't even know why they're over there. At some point, you have to start thinking about this. It had to joggle my mind when I read this story to say, oh yeah, that's right, we at war. I wonder how many other people don't realize that we're at war. So when these two young men come home and people just kind of see it on their news right quick and say, oh, damn, there's two more of them. And then they start eating and forgetting and playing Fortnite. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh my goodness, are we really thinking about this shit? Man, all of this money being spent, what the hell is going on here? Wake up, man. What's going on around you? Yeah, you know, such and such, he's going in the military. And the people say, oh, yeah, I'm so proud of him. And he goes over and he becomes a warmonger. And I'm saying that with all due respect, because I'm looking at the suicide rate. So they must become warmongers.
And they see horror stories, they see events that you couldn't see in a movie, nobody would believe it.
Something's going wrong. So when you keep saying, you know, that you of course, you're proud of them going to the military, we still have to think too, what are they going over? What are they doing?
We need a mental health
The first thing you do is say, thank you for your service. And that got to be and is what everybody's on. Rest in peace. Our prayers go out to your family. Thank you for your service. That overshadows anybody asking, why the hell you got them boys over there dying like that for nothing anyway? I appreciate that, but I don't need that. To me, everybody should give to their country. Every man should have to go into the military for us. We should be about laudable goals, not about just wantonly going killing people. How important could this war be if we don't even realize we're at war? It's got to be about something more. It's got to be about money. I mean, it's more than thank you for your service. It's when you send somebody's son over there, man, let's have some real reasons. And then think about it and not think that you're some kind of isolationist, but be smart enough to think, whoa, wait a minute. My son is going over there. Wait a minute, man. Why is my son or my daughter now going over there? And I'm not saying that we should be a perfect country. We're not going to be. We have all these type of situations, you know, within the world. Some of them do have to be handled with a strong arm. Most of those type of things can be done with a small force. There's no reason to bring over thousands and thousands of soldiers. The same thing happened that you would have done with thousands and thousands of soldiers you did with an elite force with Osama bin Laden. We got elite forces within our military that can handle just about any situation that needs to be handled. The logistical part becomes a part of capitalism where people are just trying to make money and lives don't matter. I'm a corporate type. My family ain't going to no war. My family's not going to no war only as a last resort. And what that last resort is someone touching these shores. That's when my family go to war. That's what I've told my son. There's no reason to go into the military. I did service for him. So you stand ready to do some service for him too. When we can look at something and know and define that that is a laudable reason to give your life. If you give your life or your son gives your life, your family, any member of your family gives their life, and you don't know why, there should be something wrong with that. It's not something to be proud of because your son is in the military and he comes back and he can't function in this society. They're not highlighting that. If your kid is overseas, oh yeah, where's your son at, girl? Oh yeah, he in the army. He's over in such and such. What is he doing? Why is he over there? And see, this young man here, he's from Chicago. And I'm not saying this, but it could be that he left Chicago so he wouldn't end up in prison or dead. So he goes into the military, ends up being stationed over in Afghanistan and gets killed in Afghanistan. Minorities are a part of the military, not always for patriotic reasons. It's to escape something. And sometimes the stuff you're escaping is better than what you're running to. It's been packaged to you like it's something that's career oriented. You gotta risk your life sometimes. So it should be only a last resort. What I recommend is at any point that we have a war, that we institute a draft. Anytime we have a war, we institute a draft. Of course, some people will always get over. But in general, black, white, red, and brown have to go. I guarantee you that will slow down wars. I guarantee you it will. The reason why people don't mind wars that we have in these last 15, 20 years is because they don't have to go. I looked at two people who gave their lives. I'm really wondering how many American people, how many American citizens stopped, how many stopped and really thought about why they gave their lives. Did you say that they gave their lives for your freedom, for your liberties? How do you relate that freedom and liberty to the war in Afghanistan? Would you feel any less safe if we weren't in Afghanistan? I don't know nowadays that the politicians have our best interests at heart. These politicians nowadays are sometimes paid by lobbyists to vote a certain way. And so war may not be essential, but it may be profitable. Anyway, just a little something to make you think about our fallen ones. This is OG Lee, and I'll see you again soon.